following program is a Springer Podcast Network production.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Cody Springer Show. This is episode 142. Hope everyone's doing good today, and we are going to talk about dating apps today. We're going to explore what is going wrong when it comes to modern dating. And, I don't think that dating is broken because men are bad or because women are bad. I think dating is broken because the system rewards the worst behaviors in all of us. So, yeah, we're going to talk about the dating apps and the unrealistic expectations that men and women have and why it's causing modern dating these days to be so broken and frustrating. So, we're going to get into all of that and more here on the Cody Springer Show. All right, we're going to talk about my own experience with dating apps because, to be honest, they never really worked out for me, because, you get on a dating app and you make a profile, you put your picture on it and stuff like that, and then, you got to come up with a bio, you got to, basically, tell potential matches what you're looking for, in a relationship and everything. And, it'd be like a waste of time most days because, messages would never get read. You would find a girl that you would be like, oh, yeah, like she seems like she'd be someone I could talk to or anything, or, she's interesting. And, yeah, half the messages that you even sent out never get read. And even if someone does reply, you're like, oh my God, like someone finally replied. And then the conversations don't even last that long. You'd be lucky if it went on for a day or so. And yeah, it would be frustrating and it would just feel like a waste of time. Like, why the fuck am I even doing this? Why am I wasting my time on this dating app when no one replies? Like, and then here's the thing, you could be everything that this person is looking for, and you send them a message and they don't respond. Like, come on, man, So it would get kind of bullshit after a while. And then occasionally, I would have guys messaging me, like gay guys. And here's the thing, I have no problem whatsoever with anybody who's gay, or anything like that, or bisexual. Your sexual preferences, they don't bother me. So if you're gay, cool. If you're bisexual, cool. I have no problem at all with, people who are gay, bisexual, or anything like that. Like you're whoever you want to sleep with, it doesn't bother me one way or another. But I wasn't interested, like I was looking for women, to talk to on these dating apps. And every now and then I would get a message from a guy and they'd be like, oh, hey, I just came across your profile and, I think you're cute or attractive. And I'd be like, well, listen, I mean, no offense, but you're not what I'm looking for, I mean, thank you, but no thank you. So, yeah, and then some dudes were just creeps, and unfortunately you get those kinds of people on these kind of apps. But yeah, but after a while, you get on these dating apps, you look through people's profiles and you find women that are attractive, or that you find women that are, somebody that you think you could be compatible with. And, they're not responding to your messages. And if they do, it doesn't go anywhere. And then you feel like you're just browsing instead of actually trying to meet someone. It's kind of like window shopping, like, you go by a store, or if you go inside a store and you're just looking at stuff on the shelves and you can't afford it, but you're basically kind of picturing in your head what it would be like to have that specific item. Just like with a dating app, you kind of picture yourself, being on a date with this person, hanging out with them, doing stuff with them and everything like that. But it's not going to happen, because they won't communicate, they won't respond to your messages or anything like that. So after a while, it doesn't even feel like you're trying to find someone to date. It just feels like you're scrolling through social media. And in the end, it just feels like a complete waste of time. Before we get back in today's episode, I want to take a moment to give a shout out to Phantom Lines Tattoo in Bluffton, Indiana. If you've been thinking about getting a new tattoo or your very first one, I highly recommend checking them out. My wife and I recently had our ring tattoos done there by Amber, and we couldn't be happier with how they turned out. She did an amazing job, was professional throughout the entire process, and made sure every detail was right. Amber isn't the only talented artist there either, as Phantom Lines Tattoo has a team of great tattoo artists with a variety of styles, so whether you're looking for something small and meaningful or a larger custom piece, they've got you covered. They also offer professional piercings if you're looking for more than just ink. Phantom Lines Tattoo is located at 201 West Market Street in Bluffton, Indiana. You can give them a call at 260-530-0340 to book an appointment or ask any questions. You can also find them on Facebook by searching Phantom Lines Tattoo, where they regularly post their artists' latest work, shop updates, and booking information. A big thank you to Amber and everyone at Phantom Lines Tattoo for the great experience. If you're looking for quality work from talented artists, they're definitely worth checking out. Now let's get back to the show. Alright, now it's time to get into what I think is the biggest issue with dating apps, and it is the unrealistic expectations. Everybody's looking for Mr. or Mrs. Perfect instead of the right person. And I know some women and probably some men might get a little aggravated with me for saying this, but yeah, you guys got unrealistic expectations. You guys really do. You all do, and I think this is why a lot of people get frustrated and they don't really like to, dating apps. And it's because of this reason. Everyone is so damn picky. Like women, we're going to start with the ladies first here. And, women, they get on these dating apps and, they want a man who is 6 feet tall, makes 6 figures a year. They have a perfect body. They have 6-pack abs. They have a sense of humor. They're funny. They can crack a joke and make everybody laugh. They have to be handsome. They have to have movie star good looks. They have to own a house. You know how hard it is to own a fucking house in this economy? Like, come on, man. I do think that a man at some point should have a place to live of their own, separate from their parents, but nowadays it's hard to afford a house in this economy, with the housing market being the way it is. As for my wife and I, we have our own apartment. We're not really looking to purchase a house because we can't really afford it, so you have to make do with what you can get. So, but women want men who own their own house, and they want a man that has no baggage at all. They have no baggage, or they have no previous attachments. So basically, they don't want a man who has kids from a previous relationship. They don't want that. And I get it. Taking on somebody else's kids as your own kids, it's hard. It really is. And if you've never been a parent before, yeah, it can definitely be challenging. Um, but yeah, but that's what women want. And if a man doesn't check all the boxes that they're looking for, then it's a no go. It's a deal breaker for them. And then they move on to the next guy, and then they find something in their profile that makes them, be like, oh nope, they don't check all the boxes for me. Move on to the next motherfucker, and then they spend all this time on these dating apps looking for Mr. Perfect, and that motherfucker don't show up, and they're like, well, this is pointless. Like, why am I doing this? It's because you're being too damn picky. You expect all this shit from a man, and if he doesn't check all your boxes, then it's a deal breaker. And you're not going to respond to his messages. You don't care about what he says or thinks, and he might be the right person for you. He might even be your soulmate for all you know. But because he doesn't check your boxes, your checklist of shit that you like, then it's a no-go. It's a deal breaker. You don't give a shit about him. You dismiss him. Don't respond to his message. And you just want nothing to do with it. Don't want to give him a chance. Nothing. And then you get frustrated because there's no man on this app that checks all of your boxes of what you want. Well, I'm sorry, but you're not going to find that Mr. Perfect. You're not going to find the perfect guy because there's no such thing. Every man in the world has something that is an imperfection. Like me, I'm not the most good-looking person in the world, I don't think. But I don't care. I don't give a shit if people think that I don't look attractive or good looking, or anything like that, because their opinion don't matter. You ask my wife and she'll tell you that, I'm handsome and good looking and all that, but me personally, I don't see that in myself. I just don't. But again, I don't care. I don't really care about my appearance all that much. I just, do me, I don't have time to worry about how other people view me or what they think of my looks or anything like that. I don't have time to dwell on that kind of shit. But all right, let's go to the men. Yeah, yeah, I'm not gonna let the men off the hook here, because men are a problem too on dating apps. And men, when they go on these dating sites, they're trying to find a woman that looks like an Instagram model. They have to be hot, they have to be sexy, they have to be, they have to look like a girl, like that could be on the cover of a magazine, or photo shoots or something like that. They want someone who looks like a Instagram model or social media influencer, and then they judge the girl entirely off of looks in their photos. Well, I'm going to tell you this right now. How people look on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, that's not what they look like on a day-to-day basis. Because, they use a lot of filters and everything, video effects, so basically what they look like online doesn't mean they look like that in their everyday life. Now, don't get me wrong, there are women out there who are beautiful as can be, but they are mostly using filters on Instagram, especially, just to look their best, because they put a lot of stock into what people think of them when they shouldn't. And men, they will pass on good women out there because they're chasing perfection. And look, everyone has their preferences. If you think someone's attractive, they're attractive to you. You know, and I think you shouldn't, think about what other people may think. But again, just like women, men are also chasing perfection. That they want a hot blonde girl, who looks hot, attractive, and like I said, they look like an influencer or Instagram model. But the point I'm making here is that perfection doesn't exist. And this goes back to what I was talking about last week with men needing friends and stuff like that in that episode, and why, friendships are not perfect because people aren't perfect. Perfection doesn't exist. It doesn't. And if people think that they're perfect or they're trying to reach this level of perfection, then they need to stop with that bullshit because it doesn't exist. It don't. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. And if you think you are perfect, then you need to fucking get that shit out of your head right now because you're not. No offense, but yeah, you need to get that out of your head right now because you're not perfect. There is something about you in your scope of perfectionism that is imperfect or is a problem. Point blank. Now let's talk about the dating apps themselves because, Tinder and Bumble and I don't even know what's out there anymore. I haven't been on a dating app in years, but dating apps aren't designed to help you leave. No, they're not designed to help you find somebody. They're designed to keep you swiping. Like there's so many women out there on the dating apps and so many men as well. There's endless choices and there's the fear of missing out. Like, oh, I need to find, that person. And, there's, the premium memberships. Like, oh, you get unlimited messages to this specific person. Or, oh, you have boosts. That's going to boost your profile to so much more people. And then there's super likes, like, oh yeah, you just can't send a regular like to this person that you're interested in. Give them a super like to really get their attention. And yeah, it's just these companies are making money off of these people to stay single longer and keep using the app. Because here's the deal. If everybody found their person, if everyone found their person to date and everything like that, then there would be no reason to use the app. And then they would go out of business. So yeah, these dating apps are designed to keep you using the app so that way they can keep making money. So yeah, it's designed to basically not help you in any way, shape, or form. They want you to keep, using that credit card, so that way you can buy their premium membership that's wasting money. And, and then you'll get a boost, they'll boost your profile out there to lots more people. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get messages or you're going to get likes or people's not going to swipe, and to let you know that they like you or anything like that. It doesn't mean a damn thing. And the super like features, that doesn't do anything either because, yeah, you can super like somebody, but that doesn't mean that they're going to respond to you. So, yeah, it's just designed to steal money from you and basically to keep you staying single longer and keep paying them so that way they can profit off of you. Now, I know a lot of these dating companies, they're not going to like me saying this. They're really not, but I don't care. I don't care what they think because this is the truth about dating apps. You know, they're not here to help you, and they're just lowering your self-esteem. They're making you feel like you're not enough when you are. And the fact that they design it this way to where it's a cash grab, it's fucked up. It honestly is, because they're preying on your insecurities, your loneliness, and for some people, desperation. So that way you pay for these premium memberships, for these boosts and super likes and all this other bullshit. Because, they know that this is what they need to do in order to keep you paying for their shitty services. And again, like I said, if these dating companies disagree with me or anything like that, don't like what I'm saying, then feel free to reach out to me. Contact me. Send one of your representatives and we'll do a podcast. Because I would love to have a conversation about this with somebody, one of their representatives, and we can have a clean, professional conversation about it. But I'm telling you, this is the hardcore truth about these dating apps. They're designed to keep you single and to keep you paying. All right, and now let's talk about what people want, because everybody wants something different. And the biggest problem isn't hookups or hookup culture, it's that everybody is looking for something different on the same app. Because, everyone wants to talk about hookup culture and everything, and it's because of that why people can't have serious relationships anymore. But, because some people want marriage, they want to have kids, they want a family, they want to settle down with somebody and have that family life and find their person. And that is great. That's what I ended up doing. I found my person, we got married, and now we have a kid together, and it's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. But, there's some people out there that want casual dating. Like, they don't want anything serious. They just want somebody that they can go on some dates with and have fun with, But it's nothing serious, They don't want a serious commitment because they can't, do that right now. And that is completely okay. So if you just want somebody that, you can go on some casual dates with, like, oh yeah, let's go out for pizza one night, or let's go bowling, or go to the movies, and you're just having fun with that person, just casual dating, nothing serious, and there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. And then some people just want hookups. They just want to fuck, they don't want anything other than that. And you know what? Nothing wrong with that, honestly. I know a lot of people look down on people for just one hookup and just have sex and stuff like that, but then again, it's their business, It's their business. That's what they want to do with their life, So if it's not affecting you, then why should you care, So, yeah. I mean, I just think that, people are just going to do what they want to do, and people don't need to worry about it. So yeah, people just want to hook up. They don't want the other stuff that comes with it. They don't want to date. They don't want to, have anything serious. But the problem with that is that men are getting on these dating apps and they're trying to hook up with women that want the complete opposite of what they're looking for. So it's like, why are you, coming on this app that's supposed to be for serious relationships if you just want to hook up with them? Like, you're on the wrong app, dude. Clearly. And then some people just want attention. They just want attention. They just want validation. They want people to talk to them, and just for those dopamine hits. They're just chasing the dopamine hit, to make themselves feel better. And to be honest, I think it's kind of stupid. honestly, like you have to get on this dating app just for attention. There's clearly a missing void in your life if you are just on the app for attention. And some people are fresh out of relationships. Let's say somebody was in a serious relationship for 5 years. They just got out of it. They've been single for a little while. And then they decide, maybe we should try get on this dating app and see what happens, But yeah, some people, kind of want to test the waters a little bit. They're not sure where to start. So, they get on a dating app. The idea, in my opinion, is that maybe these dating apps should split these groups up instead of throwing everyone into one giant pool. Because, like I said, everybody wants something different. And so on some apps, yeah, you can tell their app algorithm what you're looking for. I want a serious relationship that ends in marriage, or I'm looking for casual dating. Or I don't know what I want. You know, but yeah, I think the groups should be split up instead of throwing everyone into this one giant pool because this is when stuff gets complicated. All right, now if I was given money to build my own dating apps, this is kind of what I would do. I would do two apps. One app would be the serious relationship app. So people would sign up for this app, and basically this is what the requirements would be for this dating app. There would be personality questions. So basically it would ask you questions about your personality and stuff like that, and then video introductions. Everyone wants to kind of do TikTok these days, right? And do TikTok videos. So, kind of bringing that concept into this dating app. So basically, you would record a video of yourself and, introducing yourself. Like, hi, my name is Bob. I work in a factory for a living. I make, car parts, I'm an easygoing guy. I like to watch football on Sundays. I like to chill with my friends, and I'm just looking for someone I can have a serious relationship with. And then, boom, that's all I gotta say. Done. Upload the video, and then when you go on their profile, that video is gonna be there, and there will be no endless swiping like Tinder. And there's going to be limited matches, and basically the app would be focused on compatibility rather than looks. So basically, the app would take the personality questions, the video introductions, and basically match people based on compatibility, and everything. And like it would pretty much be a thing where you would basically have to talk to this person, and get to know them. It would basically try to limit the options, pretty much. I'm not saying it would be perfect, but it would be a concept that I think with some tinkering and with over time improvements, it could actually be an app that helps people find each other rather than just being on the app and not finding anybody at all. And then there would be the second app, and that would be the casual dating app. And then everybody on that site, on that app is looking for hookups, and there's no pretending, no mixed signals, and there's just complete honesty all across the board. Because if you're on an app where everyone's looking for the same thing, then there's no confusion, there's no drama that needs to be had. Like, okay, they're looking for what I'm looking for, so basically we're all on the same page, and there's no crap that gets attached to it. And I would say that neither app is wrong. It's people just deserve to know what everybody's looking for. If you're going on an app to find a serious relationship, then that's what it should be. If you're looking for just hookups, then there's that app for that too. And then everybody knows what everybody's looking for, and nobody gets confused. So if I was given the money to build 2 dating apps, that would be the concept of either one. All right, so now I'm going to tell you guys the story of how I met my wife. And I did not meet my wife through a dating app. I met her at McDonald's. As I've mentioned before in the past, I was a manager at a McDonald's in Van Wert, Ohio for about 5 years. And I met my wife while working there. So basically, here's what happened. My wife was working at Taco Bell down the street. She was worked there for a while. She was not really happy about working there because she was working long hours for shit pay. So then she decided to apply for McDonald's. And then they hired her, and then she was doing some closing shifts. So her and I would work together often, and I just, got to know her a little bit, and I thought she was cute, and I was attracted to her. And, I just think things just kind of happened, naturally, because one day I asked her to come over to my apartment so we could hang out, and then one thing led to another, and, you can basically, kind of know where I'm going with this. But yeah, everything just kind of happened naturally. The chemistry was there. We didn't force anything. We just really got to know each other. And that's something that these dating apps can't really recreate. So for people who are frustrated with these dating apps and everything, then get off of them. Because I think if you're patient and you wait and everything, then that person will come to you. Because to be honest, I didn't expect that I would meet my future wife while working at McDonald's. I did not anticipate that happening, nor could I have predicted that, but it happened. And it was one of the best things to happen to me in my life. So, yeah, you just never know. And I'm not saying that, you should date coworkers. I'm not saying that, but people meet in the most unusual set of circumstances. And when that person is special, then and then it's going to develop into that connection that you two are going to have. And then before you know it, you two are together. So, so basically, my wife and I, we've been married 3 years this month. And then today, I don't know if you guys can see that clearly, but, we went to the tattoo shop today. And because, we were having issues with our wedding rings and everything. So we decided to just kind of get our own personal touch tattooed on our fingers, and it has the date that we got married on it. And it's permanent. It's permanently in ink. It's just our symbol of our commitment to one another, and I think it's an awesome thing. For sure. I was really happy with how it came out. That is how I met my wife, and thank God it wasn't on a damn dating app. So to kind of close out this episode, my main advice to you is to stop chasing perfect. Start looking for something real, Start looking for something real, and it could be at your job. It could be at some kind of, community group that you do work for, or, it could actually be a friend of yours, that, you've been looking for all this time. You just don't know. But if you're frustrated with dating, don't let an app convince you that you're unlovable or that there's nobody out there for you. Keep living your life, keep becoming the best version of yourself, and be patient. The right person might show up where you least expect it, and that's exactly what happened to me. But alright, guys, take care and enjoy the 4th of July. Be safe out there, and I will talk to you all very soon.